All right, welcome everybody to this week's Fire Analytics meeting. Let's start off taking a look at the action items. I did not progress very much. I think the main thing is, Nikolai, you were talking about moving forward with the spec a little bit and the APIs. You want to give us an update on that?
Yeah. So I'm moving spec. I cleaned up the code. So now it works with fish, structured like many IGs. So it's split into the parts, standard parts for operations. So today I spend the time, Josh is working on a sync pattern. Let me find the link. A sync pattern, asynchronous interaction request pattern. I will share the link here. So I think we can harmonize it with our asynchronous operation. So as I understand it, for R6, it will go to incubator. We could be the first one who implementing that, but it's slightly different from what we're having now. I already discussed with Josh that the difference. So the first difference that when you polling in the current specification draft, it's no body response with just a header, but we are responding with a partial result and some extra information. But Josh said it's not a problem to update the spec, this draft with that. But another key decision, and maybe we can discuss with Josh, that the idea that if operation is failed, so it's in Josh's proposal, it's 2 steps. So you polling for the result, and whatever will happen, it will answer 200 and location to get the result. And if it's failed after you getting a response from this location, you may get a, I don't know, error code, an operation outcome, and something like that. So it's like 2 steps. It doesn't in our current specification, when you're polling, and then eventually you may get a like error code and an operation outcome that or parameter that something failed. But in Josh version, the extra request. So Josh motivating that stuff that you can distinguish polling error from the result error. I'm still not convinced, to be honest, that we need this extra request for that. So I think we should discuss. If you guys have any opinion, or you may think and discuss it with Josh, because I would love it. At least it would be aligned. Maybe we can influence this draft. What do you think right now, guys? Here,
I just want to understand the motivation a little bit. Is it to harmonize the interaction patterns in R6?
Like I can tell the motivation. Yeah. So the idea that some operations may be asynchronous or may take too long. For now, there are 2 asynchronous patterns. One is a legacy bulk export, and another one is described in the spec, but nobody is using it yet. And the idea that make this specification for asynchronous pattern, that every operation eventually can be turned into the asynchronous. Because current second pattern, which is documented, it requires respond with a bundle. But what we discussed on FHIR, that sometimes if you're doing read, you're expecting the resource as a response, or if you're doing something, you may expecting the parameters as a response. So the idea to bring this generic pattern, so every potential operation may be turned into asynchronous, and maybe even in operation definition there will be extension of the special flag that it could be executed as even the searches and like other operation bulk transaction. So
okay, yeah, that's helpful. One other question: I'm sure Josh is thinking about like MCP and agents in this world as well. I'm imagining that's true.
Yeah, but that's quite pragmatic thing, guys, about that. I'm not sure about the extra request, to be honest. I don't know, Steve, what do you think? Do we need this extra request to distinguish polling errors from asynchronous operation and asynchronous job errors? If not, we can convince Josh.
This has been done a couple different ways in different parts of FHIR. One way I've seen it done, which was sort of nice, is I think it's done this way in the bulk data export, is you get a bundle back, but you have a collection of successful exports, and then you can have a collection of errored out exports for any reason, you ran out of space or there's some sort of other error in terms of transforming the data. How is that represented here? Is there so and the other thought here too is sometimes it's nice to know that everything's okay rather than having to fish through a big bundle. So I'm not sure exactly how that's accomplished here in this proposal.
So it doesn't put any constraints here. So the general idea that you kick off the operation, you're getting this 202 and the location to poll for the result. You're polling unless you're getting 202. When you're getting 200, you're getting the new location to get the final result.
Okay.
And when you're trying to get this final result, you may get an error code or the success. So the Josh delays the problem of the asynchronous job till this last request when you're getting the result. So that means the polling always respond with a 200 and the location.
Okay.
But the next request based on this location may result in error code. So it's
I see.
yeah. So that's the idea. I'm not sure about that. So we can discuss because in our case, for example, when you're polling, when something go wrong, we're just responding with the error code.
Yeah.
And the parameters. Yeah. So here we discussed with Josh. It's a trade-off of extra request or the extra complexity. Which one?
Yeah. So
natural. That's the question. Yeah. Sorry, John.
It's interesting to hear that motivation because we actually do use the async pattern in the FHIR spec. We have been for years, and we use it for everything actually because we implemented it for I think import. We imported it kind of as a reusable piece of functionality, and we said, well, why not have this available for every operation? If someone requests it to be async, well, why not give them async? So we actually do use it, and as it's currently in the spec. I'm trying to think of an example.
You have to report it to Josh because he said it's only one guy who used it.
Yeah, I don't think it's only one guy, but this doesn't sound like a huge difference. But I'm trying to think of an example of what a polling error is. What is an example of a thing that would rate as sort of an error that is not kind of a final error, but is somehow related to polling. I'm just trying to get my head around that.
I don't know, maybe just proxy, but you can see if you don't understand this error, so you can try again, yeah?
Yeah, but if I knew the job was failed at that point, wouldn't I just tell them in the status response?
Yeah.
I wouldn't make them go fishing for that information if I already knew, right?
Yeah, I think there's a case to be made for that. And the distinction, what is the trade-off being made here? Obviously, it's more requests, but yeah, I think it's generally speaking, just taking a step back for our API. I think it makes sense to go with this type of pattern if it is being standardized in this way. I don't see, because I remember our conversations where we were designing the API, and obviously we're looking at both FHIR, the non-standard API as well. And so if they are looking at harmonizing it into the future, I think it makes sense just for us to start getting on that path early.
Yeah, and we definitely don't want to produce fifth pattern.
Yeah, I don't think we want to do another different version, right?
Yeah, that's what may happen. Yeah. So
okay.
Let's maybe contribute to the Josh draft and maybe discuss it. We can start a public thread or just make comments in the HackMD.io.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to move forward.
Another report that Graham sent it. So to attach operation to the ViewDefinition resource type, now Graham extended the extension allowed type to operation definition.resource, and probably tooling will understand it and render properly the resource type for the operation. So I'm gonna try it. It's not very nice because it's a collection of primitives. We're gonna have a primitive extension for that, but I will do this. So I will add this. I don't know, did Graham update at IG Publisher to understand it, but eventually he will do that. Yeah.
So with the IG Publisher, so I made this pull request to add in a test runner to it, and that's been merged. The tests don't all pass, and they're not currently running inside because I think Graham's not real happy about them not passing yet, and also the GitHub pages thing. So we have to kind of set up like the publishing of the report in the FHIR core repo. And I think that the workflow doesn't have permission to do that, or GitHub pages hasn't been sort of enabled properly or whatever. So there's that. So that's almost there. So I kind of want to get that sort of row of ticks, or it's okay if it's ticks and crosses, I think, because then we've just got something to visualize and work on. But the other thing I want to mention was I noticed that there's been kind of a regression in the functionality of the RG publisher with respect to view definitions. Like we used to have this kind of nice rendering that Graham did initially, but it's kind of been replaced with this sort of that rendering seems to have gone away. You can see it if you go into our IG actually, and you go to like say an example or something, and it says this content is an example of the view definition logical model and is not a FHIR resource. And we don't have this kind of tree view of like what the view definition looks like and everything that we used to have. So I'm not sure what happened with that, or whether that was part of all this hullabaloo about additional resources or trying to rationalize this all in the tooling and stuff. But we should try and get that back as well, I think, like, because it's nice to have some sort of special rendering of view definition. And I'm not sure about the whole SQL functionality. I think there's a to-do list on our side to use that SQL functionality somehow in our IG. I think that would be a good thing to do because we're kind of dog fooding, and it's also showing what you can do in the IG publisher as well. So I think that's maybe another nice thing to have in our IG is like on at least one page in the IG is like a SQL query based on our resources in our IG, as well as the nice rendering of the view definitions, I think. But just thought I'd mention those few things since we're talking about the IG publisher.
Did we ever have that the query functionality? I thought we did.
No, we never
had
a query. Yeah, we've never actually tried that in our IG.
Okay.
But it is in some IG because Graham sent a link of somebody else's IG that is actually using that SQL on FHIR thing. I'll see if I can dig it up.
Can you dig that up? Yeah, that would be good, just for my own benefit to see an example. Yeah, I agree. It would be, ideal to be exercising the query functionality and to get back that custom rendering functionality too. I think those two, I would agree with those.
There's another topic, so I updated
Yep.
the query, library query profile. So there's a big question, what should be how to treat parameters and the table name. I made the first version prefix them with a colon. So there is no standard way to do that, but I don't know, maybe I can share the screen.
Can you share?
Let me find, can you see my screen?
Yep.
So where's the SQL? The question, what the table name should be, and if we have a parameters, how to do the parameters. Do you see this stuff? So the idea, there is no standard way for the parameters. So in JDBC it's a question mark, but it's unnamed. So it's positional stuff. So guys like Oracle, it's like semi-standard, or DBC, I don't know, they use this colon stuff with a parameter name. And essentially the table name we can treat as a parameter, because in many systems it is not real table name. So we don't know for example, in our implementation, it's in a specific in a different schema, namespace in Postgres. So essentially it's kind of parameter as well. So my suggestion is that it kind of easily can be processed, or maybe if you have a better idea, let's discuss. So the two topics, should we somehow make the table name, and how we gonna parameterize name the parameters in the query. So I did research. There is no standard way to do that. So ANSI doesn't say this because it's mostly about engines. So the engines like JDBC or DBC, they doing that stuff. That's one of the suggestions. Maybe we can look into more popular libraries and what they can do. We can use like handlebars here. I don't know. Because colon, it's not so easy to parse. There are some SQL constructs which may contain colon, yes, so it may be not so easy to find this pattern and replace.
So the tables that we kind of logically assume to be there for these queries, what are they? Are they kind of the views that into the FHIR server, or
it is a name of the view? Yeah. So
do we need it to be a variable then? Because we know what the views are, we know what the names of the views are. Can't the server translate that into something else if it needs to? Like if it has all the views in another schema, can it say, well, I'm going to turn patient demographics into views.patient demographics?
You mean we just can treat it as a token, yeah? So and then if we need to replace in SQL.
Yeah.
Yeah, there could be potential problem if the table name is a part of some string literal or something like that. Yeah, so then you have to parse SQL to do that. But column may not save it as well, but it's at least some extra information. So I'm still not sure about that, and the same about parameters. Yeah.
Nikolai, I just did a search. It's all over the map. So C# style is using @city. Sometimes it's just a question mark, but then you'd have to sequence them correctly.
Instead of colon, they're using @. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've seen there's another framework that's using brace 0 and brace, and then brace 1 brace. So you'd have to sequence them correctly again. Those are the main uses. I have seen that your style there, :city, but I can't recall where.
I don't remember where.
Ruby style, sort of, I think.
It could be yeah. Or even handlebar. So the handlebar is kind of safe. Yeah. I think it's most like safest. I can still imagine some Postgres construct which may not work with handlebars. Yeah.
I feel like that there needs to be some distinction between the table name and the other parameters though, right? Because you're treating those differently.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like I take your point that you need to be able to, you need something more than just the name of the table to find that thing, but you also want to know that it's something different to just one of the other parameters in the query, because you want to find that, you want to treat that like a table and go looking for it somehow.
Maybe I'm not quite there yet, but I mean, do we like, and maybe I'm not following why we would want the table name to be dynamic, to be able to be replaced as into this. Parameters I get, right? Like you need something for parameters for sure, but table name, I'm wondering why that needs to be dynamic in this context.
It maybe not, again, so just if it's part of literal, there's a chance that it just replacing token may break the query. I don't think it's a big chance, but there's some, yeah. Maybe we even with the handlebars or something like that, we don't have a like 100% guarantee. So we need some type of escaping or stuff like that to be defined, but there's a small chance to have this problem. And the same about.
Well, I think you need some parsing anyway, right? Because like, doesn't matter what symbol you put on front of that, I could still put it in a string literal in somewhere else in the query. So you kind of need some sort of concept of where that thing's supposed to be.
Yeah. But it's still, I can imagine like the handlebar with the name of parameter of the name table, the probability of the clash is really small, yeah. But if you just put the colon or there still could be something. But maybe let's discuss it in the Zulip. So we need some type of network. And I think, I also described this sugar proposal here. I don't know, do we need it or not, which was suggested by Brian, yeah? So if you like it, I can backport his Python script into TypeScript into our repo. And I think maybe we can start even thinking about SQL query operation on top of this library query resource. It shouldn't be too hard, but we will close the loop.
Question on the sugar proposal. Do we want to make that like non-normative?
Yeah, if you can label it as a non-normative, so just a suggestion. But maybe it works to mention so that if people will do this, at least they will do the same way.
Yeah, I like that, but I don't think we have a strong feeling of it being a normative part of the specification, by the way. So if I just wanted to make that point.
I don't know how to mark the section that it is not normative. So if you always do this a special, I don't know.
What would be the rationale for it to be non-normative versus the actual resource?
I mean, in my mind, it's tooling to create a normative resource. That's not it's not a requirement to implement the standard, right? Like you can imagine, your organization has your own workflow with your own sugar syntax that you like, it works with your systems and your tooling. Like there shouldn't be any, maybe that's a little too strong, but like I don't see the value in giving it the kind of identifier saying like this is something that you have to implement SQL on FHIR. I know we don't make that case really strongly, we're pretty flexible. We're like, you can implement any parts you like, but this seems like at a lower class than the structure of the query, the library query resource, for instance, right? They don't see them on the same level of necessity.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's keep discussing that stuff. So
okay,
if you're okay, I will create operation draft for operation for SQL query. It will be similar to the ViewDefinition run, I think. Like it's going to be synchronous operation.
Okay, that sounds good.
There is a problem with repeat. So John, the guys from 8box, they reported they implemented repeat. So it works, but the problem with this expression, you see, yeah, it's like a it's like a puzzle. It's just wrong because repeat is a collection of strings, and the count will count all this stuff. So if you put into repeat 2,
okay,
the guys suggested, I don't like this one. This is more like the better expression, but I don't like it. So maybe we can ask Brian to how to do it. There should be definitely should be used. Yeah, I'm not sure about this part, like translating into integer and then adding.
We can use any true, maybe.
Yeah, any true. It's essentially it should be only one true. Yes, something like that. I don't know. Do we have function?
There is IIF now. IIF.
So we have to fix this expression in a spec.
Yeah, no problem.
And the guys reported that they was able to implement with a common table expression. I will still try to implement it in a different way in Postgres, but it is slow, but it's working. So in Postgres. So that means that other databases which have common table expression can do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, we're so on our side, I want to implement it both in Pathling and also the SQL Server one. I think the SQL Server also has a common table expression, so that's probably the way that we'll do it there. I don't know if any of our implementations that we've come across so far don't have this though. That's the thing that's in my mind is like, are any of the sort of engines that we've thought about so far going to struggle with this, and what are we going to do about that?
On the repeat directive, meaning?
Yeah, but we can continue to think about that. Maybe DuckDB might be another one.
I'm pretty sure that the DuckDB do support common table expressions. We can check, but yeah. I still want to try in Postgres. There's a JSON path with asterisks, which can potentially replace that stuff and can be much more efficient. I asked it to guys to experiment with it, but that's what probably not available in other databases, but potential that this optimization can be applied to Postgres. Yeah. And our guys, by the way, fixed all tests in 8box. Now it's all green, so guys, it's good motivation for you to go green as well.
Nice.
Cool. Competition. Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, Graham said our boundary tests are wrong. So I don't know what that means, and I think I've expended all my energy in trying to understand the boundary tests, but according to him, they're wrong. So I don't know exactly how they're wrong, but we might have to, and as part of fixing the FHIR core implementation, we might have to review like what they're doing in FHIR core versus what we built to in our implementations and just see what the difference is. But it's an annoying area.
We need to get somebody who's not you to work on that. Okay, so good
Yeah,
progress.
if we move our meetings, so the Brian said there is a conflict of SQL and FHIR and his professional administration meeting. So if we can find the time, so Brian said that potentially he can visit us more often.
Brian posted.
Yeah. So we will have a FHIR expert.
Yeah, I don't know about moving the meeting. That's a scary proposition to me. But yeah, maybe
it moved by itself this morning for me. The US East daylight saving finishing, but I'm open to potentially doing it on another day. Probably not towards the end, like at the edges of the week. But yeah, I think there's clashes everywhere. Actually, we'd have to put some thought into it and maybe like a doodle poll or something.
Would you? I mean, are you considering like we could have a special meeting, particularly around the topic for Brian, but like
oh yeah, we could, yeah, for sure. We can always do that.
All right. Well, yeah, let's if there's a need for that, let's just surface that and let me know. Or actually, I think John, you control the invite, and I would say add a specific meeting for something that's before we start looking at moving the entire meeting, because I don't know if that will work for people. Okay, I think it sounds like good progress on the API. I'm sorry, on the spec, including the API, moving forward with some of the enhancements to the API. So good stuff there. I'm just looking and seeing if there's anything outstanding in the earlier work. Spec. We talked about synchronous pattern, Nikolai. I did some work on the intro page. You might have seen that, Nikolai. I think I opened a branch. Just a first pass. I will try and take a look at fleshing that out a little bit, but I am trying to keep it really concise. So you don't have to read through like 10 pages of stuff before you get to the meat of the spec. There's too much AI generated documentation out now. Now I'm just like, I just tune out really too much. It's like 20
you
pages.
Just get your AI to read it? Like, yeah, only the AIs read it, right?
I haven't approached that level yet. Agents talking to agents. Sorry, circle back. Revised intro page, that was me. We have the SQL dialect. Somebody did that. Did you do that, John? I saw that in there.
The terminology thing.
Yeah. Did you created like a value set? Somebody created a value set for SQL dialects. No, it wasn't me.
It wasn't me either.
I think it was Brian. So the Brian.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
he must have
this draft of the library query, and he started refactoring to fish, and I'm picked up from where.
I'll take a look at it once things settle down. They look pretty good, but I think it's worth taking a look at them just to really confirm that what's in there is right. Arcane Fire, I'm going to say nothing. John, probably.
No progress there at the moment. Okay. I can only focus on so many things at one time.
You can only what?
I can only focus on, well, actually one thing at one time.
Totally fair.
We definitely have to eventually make a meeting about OMOP. Yes, so the more and more people interested, and on the FHIR camp there was a lot of interest. So.
Okay. Yep. We've discussed this a couple of weeks ago, but yeah, let the group know, me and John, see how we can help coordinate that. Maybe, our conference is coming up soon. I'll give a little update about that once we get through the rest of this. John, you're aware of all the things on your to-do list, I'm sure. Gino did not, as far as I know, take a look at our project proposal in PSS. So it might be worth a ping to Gino. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think we should ping him, and I think we should just, I don't know, have you had a look at it, Nikolai?
Not yet, but I'm okay to delegate it completely to you guys.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything particularly controversial in there, but also just the plan to just create an initial JIRA ticket for like a proposal, and then that gets considered, and then that progresses to like a scope statement. So we've actually drafted a proposal and a scope statement, and the idea is to kind of start kicking off that process. And I think the rough goal is like, if that all happens, then, we could be looking at like next year, sort of thinking about what we might want to actually take through a ballot process. And then we would have to look at what changes we might need to make. Like if it becomes a project, it might just change. We might have to advertise our meeting on HL7 and a couple of other little things. But really at this stage, we're just kind of kicking off the process and seeing what happens, I think. But Gino is the man who we really need to guide us through.
So I started visiting FHIR meetings, so I like how the guys are working. It's usually Gino or Lloyd who is driving the whole process.
Yeah, I'll give Gino a gentle ping. I reviewed it with John, and it seemed non-controversial, really straightforward. So just want to get his eyes on it and then move to the next step, which I think is what John said, a Jira ticket, and then there's some advertisement process, and then there's some sign-off process, I think, within FHIR. So maybe we were talking about, John and I were talking about attending FHIR, or at least dropping by. I think I'll put that on my agenda. It's on Mondays, right? Monday afternoons.
Yeah, it's Monday. It's 2-hour meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, probably I will not stick around for the whole thing. Okay, I think that's it for the governance part. Looks like Josh Kelly, I saw this on the channel. He's doing some implementation work with SQL on FHIR, which is great. Haven't seen Josh in a little while. Cool. I don't know if you guys have looked at that, but that looks like a useful exercise.
The guys from Eden Lab contacted me. They said they doing, let me say it properly, so I not miss. They asking, do we still have a slots for the conference? And let me 1 second. They doing some kind of semantic analytic on FHIR, and they want to share how they doing that. So I invited them to the next meeting. So they probably they present first on our meeting, and then we can decide if we have a slots. So, or we can expand our conference. Maybe we need the third day. I don't know.
No, we're not doing it third day. I'm sorry. I think, it's a possibility. I'm not going to say it's totally in the can, but I could see adding one or two, like one, maybe, I wouldn't even say maybe two. Like one thing we could have a session that's like lightning round.
That may be, yeah.
I wouldn't be against that. Maybe on the first day, just so the second day doesn't stretch out. It's Friday as well, so I could see that because Josh could show his use case. These Eden Lab folks could show their use case. I'm trying to think if there's anybody else who.
Yeah, maybe lightning talks is a good idea. Yeah, so like 5 minutes.
A company called FHIRmetrics that they have a similar, I think what you're talking about, Nikolai, they have a similar semantic where they flatten all the FHIR data, so they could also potentially be interested. I could follow up with them if we're doing something like that. They're primarily in Germany, so they've been flattening data.
So yeah, I could see. I think we could adjust the schedule for that. I'm putting it in the schedule right now, just as a question mark. If we did, because we usually have 30-minute blocks, so we could do 3 to 6-ish lightning talks. I think these would be really lightning talks. These would be like quick demo, 3 slides, maybe 1 question kind of thing. I'd be good with that. It expands the audience a little bit. Okay, let me discuss it with Daniil as well, just see how things fit together. And we can go from there.
I think it's a good idea to invite them along to the meeting kind of as a gateway, just so that it'd be great to get them involved anyway, and we can get to know them and get to know what it's all about, what they're working on.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll reach out to Josh too, see if he's interested, and then we can advertise. I like it. Okay, so conference, we did kick off marketing. Really, Daniil kicked off marketing this week, so that's great. We already have, as far as I know, roughly 100 signups on the first day, which is terrific. And so everybody who's involved, please share out, post on LinkedIn, and just kick it off. Send it to all your friends. because it's coming up soon. So I'm starting to think about my presentation.
Maybe let's ask Lloyd or somebody else to do it in Zulip announce channel.
Okay. Is there? Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, the special channel where only that guys can post, and it's like news channel for most of people who are using Zulip.
yeah. Did you get like I mean Graham is a speaker, so I think we got all the like sign off for using the FHIR trademark. I'm assuming we did. We did
Yeah.
last time, right? So
It's
he just
it's on, I think somebody did because it's on the image.
yeah. I think we're good.
There's a
there.
form. There's a form that you can just fill out. That's really short on HL7. That's specifically for events, I think.
Yep.
That you just do it and they send you back. Yep, and it's done. I'm not sure if we've done that or not, but if we haven't, then it's like a 5-minute job, and we probably should do that.
Yeah, I think we did this the last conference. Yeah, but maybe we repeat it all the time. Yeah.
I'm gonna just write this down. I can do it.
Maybe we can ask as well the HL7. Do they want to post it somehow on the HL official site, or?
That's what I was thinking because we have to do that, and then we have the possibility of doing those things. We can't really ask HL7 to do stuff if we didn't do that. Any questions or thoughts on the conference? I think things are moving pretty well. Now it's just about spreading the word and working on presentations, and then a couple of minor things.
Yeah, I was gonna show what I was thinking and some of the progress I made on some of my FHIR query converter stuff. If we have a couple of minutes left on this meeting, Arjun. But other than that, yeah, we'd just like some feedback from this group on, the presentation and all of that stuff. So.
That'd be great.
All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I did some more work on SQL to SQL, and this is the part you guys already saw, the generation of the SQL, and then here's the structure of kind of parsing, tokenize, parse SQL into abstract syntax, and then use that to define the structure. So basically, like every SQL becomes a syntax that's able to be, read and transformed to generate base FHIR views. So this would be something that would work off of view definitions, and then converting defines to CTEs, and then generating the final query. So then basically we're building out a schema for each SQL measure would, have a predefined schema that, we would run through. So I just documented some of the things here of, the architecture, proposed architecture. Again, this is kind of more theoretical right now. So I had a good discussion with Evout in Portugal about potential complexity of this, because they did ELM to C#. So he gave me some good feedback though. So this is kind of like the stage of how this would work. And I am including ELM generation to SQL. So there's terminology, canonical terminology support for CQL, and then generated SQL is using the same canonical, terminology, which is a big part of the whole reason behind using SQL and FHIR is because of the terminology. Generating the value set expansion tables, status filtering. So all the same stuff that's in SQL pre-built where, all the filtering is in there for the using the proper data, gets converted into SQL, into the where clause. Naming conventions get converted exactly. So the same, same thing as in the CQL, you would have generation of that structure in this SQL as well. So essentially you're using SQL as the technical requirements for building the SQL queries. Temporal support. So trying to match functionality 1-for-1 between CQL and SQL. And then like, here's the example of the ELM and generated SQL. So this is so far what I have here on this. I think this is like version 6 of the vibe coded app. This is the resources that are supported. And this is what kind of like the future phases are that I can think of. So that's kind of that's kind of where I'm at. And I wanted to ask the group, like, is this something that potentially we would want to like turn into an official kind of project where this could be part of the, SQL on FHIR working group, and maybe even cross-pollinate with like the clinical reasoning folks as well, so that it's kind of collaborative. Yeah, just wanted to kind of get your guys' thoughts on that.
I think it looks really cool.
Yeah,
The
agreed.
first thing I thought when I was seeing it is terminology, because it's really important to this, and it's kind of like something that we haven't really covered much. And maybe this could be a bit of a catalyst for us to talk a little bit more about it. I really like the idea of actually, of this being a theme of work, because lots of people seem to be really interested in it. So it probably should be, right? And the work you've done looks really great. I'm looking forward to diving in and just checking it out in a bit more detail. It looks awesome to me.
Thank you.
I would split this into several pieces. So the first of all, reusing CRMI infrastructure like libraries and all that stuff to calculate measures based on SQL on FHIR, let's say on view definitions and queries, even without translation. Yeah, even this part already valuable, yeah, and interesting. So how we can package the view definitions and the queries to calculate any metrics. So then this translation, I think it's gonna be a great adventure. I was watching how guys were translating to C# for many years, and they're still there in the middle of the journey. So I heard two guys said that they were able at the very early days to do something like that. And one of them is Breen, the guy who behind the SQL. So I suggest you to contact him and discuss with him.
And I heard from Gino, Microsoft did it, but never released it. So Gino said they did it.
Yeah, that's still rumors. People are saying they did this, but never released. So,
I've heard of a couple others. Yeah, others who've done it and not released it.
The Greek
More
guy,
private.
I forgot his name. Maybe Arjun, you remember.
Angelos. I haven't seen him in a while, but other organizations I probably can't mention. But I know that there's kind of like SQL on FHIR. There's probably more implementations than we think. But yeah, I think it looks like you've really advanced, Gene, and like looks cool. I'm particularly interested in that list you were showing at the end, where it's like these are things that are implemented, these are the next things that are implemented. I think that's really interesting. So I think it's going to make a great demo. From a organizational perspective, I think what Nikolai said is the right approach. It's like what parts of this are useful in a kind of standards context, right? And that's kind of tricky, I think, when it comes to LLMs, right? Because they're non-deterministic. They're, you could create APIs for them and structures for them, but is there, what vessels do we want to create? So I think that could be an interesting topic of conversation, which I should write down for the roundtable.
And I just remember that what we discussed else. So if the guys will publish metrics and other stuff with the SQL, and if they will provide the tests for that with the data set and the final result, so then potentially, I don't know, was it translated manually, automatically by LLM? You may test that your final metric calculation using SQL and view definition produce the same result. And that's maybe the good stuff. So, because I did twice these experiments, I wasn't able to find how it can be translated automatically, but manually I was able to write even more efficient implementation of it. But it's manually, yes. And the question how you can prove that it's the same as a SQL program, yeah. So
right. Go ahead.
I was just going to commend Gene. Really great work. My two thoughts on this are my eyes really lit up when you showed, where you are now, what's working and what's future item, what you're still working on. Because the question in the back of my mind as just viewing this is, number one, is this technically feasible? And it sounds like it is. And then, number two, where are the sharp edges where there could be some challenges? And then just based on what everybody else is saying too, is there's been several attempts at this, but nobody's really released it. And why we don't know. And every time I look at this, the SQL space, it's complex. I mean, there's a lot of tooling. It's hard to get into. And I think you've provided a huge simplification layer. So I think if it's technically feasible and it's presented in a way with a couple examples where you go from here to there very easily, I think it'll just fly. I think it'll take off like crazy.
Yeah, I'm hoping
think,
that actual live example, like I want to do, like here's me connecting to I'll have a MetPlum server or $8, I don't know, whichever. And then I'll pull the data. Here's the bundles for these patients. Here's the evaluation in SQL for breast cancer screening or hypertension, one of these very common ones. And then here's the same thing in SQL. Here's the view definitions. Here's both ways generating measure reports. The measure reports are identical. Here's the other background detail information that is also identical, that lets you exactly see the detail behind that, and then putting both into FHIR and putting both into a DuckDB or a Databricks, and then showing them side by side, saying basically it works the same way. Doesn't matter which format you're using or which database you're going with, or not a database, as FHIR is not document database. So essentially just showing that it can be done, at least with this use case. So that's what I'm trying to focus on, if I can get that for the for the presentation. So that's my goal.
Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just
I
one
like
more
that
quick
parallel.
comment. I was just going to say, echo what Nikolai said about evaluation, but might also be worth thinking about the human in the loop aspect as well, because like, how does this get used to augment an author rather than like replace them? And, what does the tool provide in terms of like hooks along the process to review and feed back into that, so that it's it's always an augmentation rather than like a replacement of someone manually doing this.
Yep. Yeah, I agree with that. Just as you're talking, John, I know we're over time, but it's like, it'd be great to see like a slide, for instance, that shows this is a pre-digital HEDIS workflow, right? Like like PDF, human SQL programmer, non-FHIR data, then one step down, it's like CQL, and I'm using HEDIS context, obviously, CQL, something in the middle, FHIR outputs, and then this is X to Y to Z, right? And so show that visually, right? And I would just have like 2 or 3 or 4 steps, so you can see people who can't kind of visually conceive of what each of those workflows is, and how this is a addition or an enhancement of one of those workflows, or even a couple of different kinds of enhancements. Because it could be, one thing to keep clear is like authoring versus execution, right? I mean, you have it all together, which is awesome, and you want to show that end to end, but also it's kind of hard, I think, for people to visualize or kind of mentally model where that might be. It kind of gets at a little bit of what John was talking about human in the loop, like where's the human in that, where's the evaluation steps, etc. So that might be a useful thing to add.
Yeah, for sure. Trust and the transparency in it is going to be a big part of it. So definitely have like a log screen that actually shows you every step in the log of what it's actually doing and how and all that. So yeah, absolutely. I have to jump off, guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you, guys. See you.
All right.
You guys.
See you next week.
Everybody, see you next week.
All right, bye.